Well, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, Sandman. I had absolutely no idea what the show was about. I'd heard it was a comic, which I never read, and I just heard a lot of positive buzz about it when it first came out, and particularly from people like Robert Meyer Burnett and John Campion. And I thought, okay, I'll watch that one. So I bought it, and I'm like, didn't get around to watching it, but I just did it the other day, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of fantasy. I'm realizing just in my life that I'm just not a huge fan of fantasy. Like Lord of the Rings, stuff like that, particularly sort of the sort of past sort of medieval sort of style sort of fantasy, but even sort of more modern fantasy, dreamscapes, it's just too all over the place. Just people just do whatever. And that's, I guess, the beauty of it. You can do anything in fantasy, but it also means there's very little to hold on to that you can relate to or recognize. And I thought this was more of a superhero series. I thought it was more like the Sandman was like a villain who killed people in their dreams or used their dreams to fight people. So I sort of thought it was something more like that. That's when I heard the name Sandman, I thought that's what it was. So, of course, I got a huge surprise when I watched the series, and it's nothing like that at all. Basically, this guy he basically rules the dream realm, and he gets captured on Earth for like 100 years, and everything in his sort of realm sort of collapses in his absence, and he finally frees himself and has to go back and rebuild everything. Now, there are so many issues. The first thing is the series was 10 episodes, but then they added an 11th episode, which is just two stories sort of put together that really have nothing to do with the rest of the series. I didn't know this. So when I got to the end of the 10th episode, I thought, wow, they kind of rounded everything off. What's going to happen in the last episode? And it's just a random story about cats and a muse, basically, a woman who's being used to inspire a man to write, a writer to sort of have ideas and that. And he imprisons her and eventually is freed by the Sandman. And that was really jarring, particularly since the story about cats is literally about cats. It's just the cats and how they dream a world where they rule the world, and then they got sort of put back in their place, and then they're sort of trying to rally each other to dream a new reality. It's all animated, and not the best computer animation, where it kind of is trying to look like actual real animation, but you can still tell it's done by computer. So that was just jarring. I'm like, what the hell? Where is this going? I didn't realize. And the other thing, the first, I think, 5 episodes, they're very much just showing all the different areas of all the different sort of landscapes in this sort of dreamscape and in this sort of realm. And they don't really get into a ongoing sort of story until about the 5th or 6th episode. And then we have, because there's 11 or 10 altogether, and there's like 3 or 4 episodes where suddenly you are in sort of like a long form storytelling sort of story, where now each episode is a different chapter in this tale of this it's too complicated to even try and explain it. I just want to do a 5-minute sort of quick little review. Basically, it was interesting to look at, but part of the problem with fantasy is because it's not real, they just go really animated, and so often you're just aware that you're just watching people on a blue screen and nothing seems real. And I mean, that's kind of the point, but it should at least feel real or look real. And it's like, well, it's fantasy, so it doesn't have to, is sort of the excuse where people sort of seem to give. The production design was beautiful, the sets were beautiful, the actors were all good. The only person I recognised was Gwendolyn Christie. She's, of course, fabulous as always. And that's about it. The last part of the story is about a girl who's trying to find her brother in the dream realm, because there's all these different elements of, there are people who slept for like years while the Sandman was captured on Earth, and all these sort of things that we do sort of see sort of explored and explained in the earlier episodes. And yeah, it's just, like I said, it's too much to go into the actual plot of all of that. It's just too complicated. And I must admit, the first few episodes I was really bored. One was really good, but the rest I was just sort of like, because none of them were related, it wasn't going anywhere. I'm like, what is this? It's just like, they're just showing us all these weird lands and weird sort of people and situations, and I'm like, what am I watching? And then they started to get into at least a story for the rest of the season, and that helped a little bit, having something to follow narratively. But Yeah, overall, I mean, it was okay. It ended well. It was interesting. It was beautiful to look at, but it wasn't what I expected. And I wasn't really sure what it was all about or the point of it all. Like, I don't feel like it really achieved anything. It just sort of meandered around this sort of realm and just sort of just was like imagining stuff. I was like, well, that's interesting. Okay. I guess this is what some people really love because people really loved this show. Whether it's because it was a really good representation of the comic which I already attached to, whether it was just what they like. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the Sandman and was it a good adaptation of the comic? I have no way of telling. But yep.